Good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of Backmarker Battles. Yes, this is not the usual ARCA Racing podcast, even though this is the usual time slot for it. ARCA has taken a couple of weeks off. I didn't want to, not be able to talk about some stuff. So I'm like, why not bring back Backmarker Battles and talk about some racing news for the week for you guys. I love doing this with you guys, and I didn't want to skip a week. So instead of the ARCA Racing podcast, we are back with Backmarker Battles this week. If you guys don't remember what Backmarker Battles is, I started this at the end of 2021, where there's a lot of battles in the back of the field that don't really get talked about. And with a lot of friends and I on social media, we talk about those battles and we post them on our social medias. And it really gives a lot of fans who they cheer on the big budget teams and we care about the big budget teams. It gives them into an insight of really what these teams who only run like 20th or better every week are actually running for every week. It's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys are ready to join me with the return of Backmarker Battles here live on the Start and Park channel. As, of course, our little intro, follow me on social media at Start and Park Car. Follow our good friends at ARCA Racing at ARCA_Racing. The man himself, the driver himself, Brad Smith. The NASCAR historian, badass himself, Brock Beard. And the best NASCAR history channel, Nascarman, on social media. And don't forget my favorite all-time photo guy, David Pequeen. So let's get into the show. We're going to have some news first, and then we'll go over the Backmarker Battles. That'll kind of be the last part of the show. Not a lot of news in the NASCAR world for the lower budget teams, but I kind of just wanted to go through a couple of things that I was able to see. In terms of ARCA first, great news. We do have a sponsorship announced for the second consecutive season. Dutch Boy will sponsor the first Kansas race, which is always good. I'm happy to see that we'll have sponsorship. Dutch Boy was nice enough to sponsor us last year, and I'm really excited. Usually the Kansas race with the Menards literally right next door to the track will always have a Menards affiliated sponsor. I liked it when it was called the Dawn 150 because I swear to God, guys, you should have seen the trophy a couple of years ago. When the race was called the Dawn 150, I was able to go to Victory Lane and see the trophy. It was a giant bottle of soap. Oh, it was so cool. I don't know what the Dutch Boy trophy is going to look like, but I'm actually really excited for that race. I'm going to be really curious to see, it seems like a lot of ARCA teams have kind of closed up together. And with Ty Gibbs not in the field, that really kind of evens up playing field of what the ARCA series might be able to do on a 1.5 mile track. But obviously that's for when the ARCA podcast is coming back. So that's for ARCA. We do have some cool NASCAR news. Actually, ties in ARCA and ties in sprint cars. Yahoo.com is actually back now. Again, this is not the first time that Yahoo has sponsored NASCAR. For a lot of young NASCAR fans who really don't know, I guarantee you hardly any of them knew this. A NASCAR fan that was born 2000 and on, I guarantee you very few of them knew that Yahoo actually sponsored NASCAR back in early 2000s with the J. Robinson Racing Team. Because back in the day, it was a lot easier for these lower budget teams to attract sponsors. Like, hey, instead of sponsoring 5 races with a big team, you can sponsor me for the whole season for the same price. It was a business. That was a type of business model that was done back in the day to attract sponsors away from the big budget teams and getting more for their money on a lower budget car despite not getting the best results. They sponsored the 39 and the 28 entries for J. Robinson Racing that were driven by Mark Green and I believe Andy Ponstein. So that was kind of cool, but then it was announced that they were coming back with a multi-year agreement with Toyota Racing Development, backing JGR, Kyle Busch Motorsports, Venturini Motorsports and ARCA, and maybe the Kyle Busch ARCA program as well, and then the Keith Kunz Motorsports sprint car team. Or midget team. Sorry, not sprint car, midget team. So I think that's cool. It's always good to see new sponsors come back into the sport, especially considering that this sponsor has been gone for almost 20 years. Obviously, this will have more success than it did back in 2004, but it's always cool to see. I believe they are making their debut this weekend with Christopher Bell, and we'll just see how it does. Christopher has not really had the best year, and hopefully can give Yahoo a good run. In terms of other NASCAR-related news, again, not much out there in terms of the backmarker side because we don't really, focus on the bigger budget teams here. So if we want to get into backmarker battles, we will start with the ARCA side of it. Now, as you guys know, ARCA, and I didn't know for the longest time, ARCA does not pay based on driver points. ARCA pays based off of owner points. That goes for all three divisions. Now, from what I was always told, it was the top 20 in the ARCA, the main ARCA series points that get a bonus. As for the East and West divisions, I'm not sure if it's the top 20 or top 15. So we'll tell you the top 20 and top 15. I would imagine, though, that because the fields are smaller, it might be top 15. But again, I don't know for sure. I'd have to ask Brad about that. I'd have to ask Wayne about it. And even then, I'm not sure if I should know that information in general. I'm just a volunteer crew guy, as we all know. But anyway, we'll go over to the West points first. Leading the West standings after 2 races, obviously, is Jake Drew. Going over to the owner standings right now. Load. There we go. We got Bob Bruncati, who currently sweeps the first 2, all the full-timers. Currently in 20th place is the number 19 for the Bill McAnally Racing Team. But if it was to go by top 15, 15th place currently is the technically 61 because Raja Caruth ran the 61 at Phoenix because the number 6 had already been taken. So technically it's the 6, but also technically it's the 61 because Raja could not run that number because I assume I don't even remember how that works, honestly, why Raja would have to change his number, but needless to say, that's where it is there. There's not a lot of full-time teams right now in the West Circuit. We'll get more of a look on that as we get farther into the season. When Backmarker Battles goes full-time around July is when I want to take this show full-time, because by then the battles will have, the early season finishes and stuff will wear off. We'll really get a good look into what this season's going to look like for these battles. So that's why I kind of hold this show off until about July, because then we can get a real look and I can give you guys the best information, because that's what I want to do. But right now, only these cars have run only 1 to 2 races. It's kind of hard to tell right now where the points is going to be. Right now, it doesn't even look like we barely will get 20 full-time cars in the West Circuit for 2022. I don't see that happening. 20 straight full-time cars, I do not see that happening. 15 straight full-time cars, I do see that happening. I do see us getting 15 full-time cars for the entire season. Not to say we won't have 20-plus car fields, but just not full-time, not for the entire year. We already had 15 back at Irwindale, so right there, that swipes that out. So that's kind of where it looks like there. Again, it's hard to judge. Probably about 3 or 4 races into the West season, I'll be able to give you guys more of an accurate look of what the West Circuit owner points will look at in terms of where the bonus will go and who's currently leading the Owners' Championship. But right now, Bob Bruncati's sitting real good right now, leading first and second place in that Owners' Championship. Give me a second, guys. We'll pull up the East points for you. So my computer's running a little slower tonight. Sure, we've all been there. Of course, as we know, Sammy Smith leads the East points in terms of the owner's points. And again, same thing. That's kind of been there the last 2 races. We're only 2 races into the season, so it's kind of hard to judge. Where the points are going to be. The East season is only 7 races, and half of that, I believe, are combined events. So this is going to be the hardest series overall to judge. And I would have to imagine that this kind of a series with the lower car counts, it has to be the top 15. It just would not make sense for this series to award points to the top 20 cars when we can barely even get 16 to 17 to show up. In fact, if you guys are even curious, there's only 18 cars registered in the owner points. So there's not even 20 cars registered in the ARCA East Series owner points. So it has to be the top 15. If you guys hear barking, I'm sorry if you guys hear barking in the background. My dog is throwing a fit upstairs, so I'm going to try to block that out. Sorry about that. Right now, Kyle Busch is leading the ARCA East points handedly. It's going to be tough to beat. We all know the Gibbs equipment with the shorter field is just so hard to beat. Now that it's been taken over by KBM's program. In second place is David Gilliland, 12 points behind, but by ARCA East standards, man, 12 points, that's going to be a lot to make up with only 5 races to go. In terms of the back of the field, if we're looking at the top 15 right now, Ashton Higgins' car holds that spot. James Finch is behind him. Andrew Tuttle is then behind him. And Wayne Peterson, the 0 car, is the farthest down below. Right now, the 3 main Andy Hillenberg entries. Because as we know, right now, the 11 car has been fielded by Willie Mullins. And although we've talked about it with them, right now, Willie Mullins is actually, I'm not going to confirm it. I'm not confirming it, but they have talked about, I've seen them talk, I even talked about it with them, maybe running the whole West Circuit. They're 5th in points right now. Willie Mullins is 5th in the East points right now. And with only 5 races to go, is it a big step for that team? Yes and no, because they don't have a lot of sponsorship. They're a good team. Willie's got a good team. They just need that more sponsorship to get a better Ilmor motor in that car. And if they can just get that, it would really help them. But right now, the logistics, it just isn't pointing out right now that he will run the whole East Circuit. But Willie, if you find this video, we love you. We want you to run the full East Circuit and get a top 5 points finish, because that was a very impressive run he put on at Pensacola. And I don't know if he's even confirmed yet for the Nashville race, or are they going to Dover first? I think it's Dover and then Nashville. If someone could correct me in the chat, I think it's either Nashville or Dover then Nashville for the East Circuit. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the schedule in a while. But yeah, that's kind of that. Those point standings. As of course, remember the 60 for Josh Williams, that is a full-time car. And as it's looking right now, the 44 for the Jeff McClure team might also be a full-time car. So that'd be cool to see too, for those combo races, to have that kind of a field there. So going into the main series division of points, and again, just like the other two, I repeat myself, we've only had a couple of races to judge these points. That's why I usually start this show in July, because I can give you guys a better outlook as to what these points will actually look like. Especially considering that Daniel Dye is leading, of course, the drivers' points in the series. But remember, we also had a lot of West teams involved at Phoenix, and a lot of teams that have only run Daytona. So again, the main series points are a little jumbled. I would say after Kansas, the first Kansas race, we'll kind of start to get a look at where the top 20 bonus is going to start to look like. And then, of course, remember the top 10 and owner points is kind of where you really want to be for I believe that's where you get to go to the banquet. I'm not sure if ARCA is even having a banquet this year. I really hope they are. We haven't seen an ARCA banquet the last couple of years. Also due to the pandemic, obviously. But last year, the champion was just simply invited. Everyone forgets that ARCA used to have their own banquet every year. And, I really wanted to go sometime. But I hope that returns. But as far as we know, it's not looking good that it will be, sadly. As, of course, right now, Bill Venturini, despite Daniel Dye leading the driver points, Billy Venturini, rather, Venturini team leads the owner's points right now. The 20 car does, because remember, that car is being shared by Jesse Love and Corey Heim. Tyler in the chat, thank you. It is Dover first and then Nashville, so thank you. But Billy Venturini is leading the owner points. Murray Gallagher for the 43 is in second. Max Siegel with Raja Caruth in the 6 is third. Kyle Busch in the 18 is fourth. And Bill Venturini, who owns the 15, is in fifth. Now, being as far behind as they are, Kyle Busch's car 18 points behind. Can they catch up for that championship win? It's going to be hard. With smaller fields, it's going to be really hard. And In terms of who's 10th right now in points, it is the 11 for Andy Hillenberg. Who is 20th in points right now is actually the 63 of the Dave Mader Racing team, owned by Jeff Spraker. So, again, that car is not full-time. That car is going to barely run, 5 or 6 races, if that, this season. So, again, it's kind of hard to give a judgment right now because we've only had a couple of races. Like I said, guys, maybe around Kansas is when we can start to give a good outlook. But I'm not even going to continue this show until July because by then the season will be half over for all 3 divisions, and I'll be able to give you guys a better and clearer outlook as to where these ARCA battles will come down to. And if you're wondering where guys like Brad and Wayne are right now, due to these big fields, Brad is down in 36th. But as we know, he runs full time. He'll climb those owner points slowly but surely every race we go. And same with Wayne. Right now, Brad's in 36th. The 06 for Peterson is right now 43rd. Brian Kaltrider, who has run the first 2 events as well, is sitting excuse me there, is sitting 39th. And in case you guys are wondering, if you guys are curious, the last car in owner points is the 66 for the Red Racing team that withdrew from Phoenix. The 57th entrance. So we've had 57 different ARCA cars attempt a main series race this season. So that's kind of fun. But that kind of wraps up the ARCA portion of the Backmarker battles. Again, lots of close battles for these lower budget teams. Being in that bonus means a lot. I do believe Peterson's going to run as many races as he can this season. And I hope they are. Obviously, the travel costs to go out to Phoenix, with what's happening right now in the world, the travel costs to go out to Phoenix. I'm wondering if maybe that was the reason why Peterson couldn't make it out there. The car, it's not like the car was broken down at all. The car was fine. I just wonder if maybe it was the travel costs and it's just the profit sharing. It's just not going to work. I wonder if that's why they didn't make it to Phoenix, because they very easily could have shown up to Phoenix and just had Wayne do a simple start and park to keep themselves up in the points. But I imagine that they're going to be at the remaining races because I don't think there's anything else on the West Coast. I think that was the only West Coast stop for the main ARCA division this season. So expect Wayne at the majority, if not the remaining 18 races in this ARCA 2022 schedule, which would be great. So moving on from ARCA, we move on to NASCAR. Now, luckily for NASCAR, we've already had quite a few races in each division. And we have Martinsville coming up this weekend, and both Truck and Xfinity will have trucks and cars going home. First, we're going to begin with the Truck Series. Now, last year we had the top 36 bonus for full purse money, and then the top 40 for the crappy money, and then the top 40 for trucks who even could race. Well, that's been taken away now. The battles we're simply going to be focusing on is the top 20 owners bonus. That is the only truck battle we'll be focusing on because truck does not have a top 30 10K bonus. As I know, I have asked around. I haven't heard anything. If they do, I'll report it. But I don't want to give false information and say that they are having one when really there isn't. I do know that there is one for Xfinity, though. So looking at it right now, of course, in case you guys are wondering, Kyle Busch Motorsports 18 truck is leading the points standings 4 races in. The lowest full-time truck in the points right now is in 41st place, and that is the 47 truck for the Glory to God Racing team. But that truck, if you guys are wondering, has withdrawn from this weekend's race at New Hampshire. I don't know why I said New Hampshire, Martinsville. Tim Vine was going to drive, but he withdrew. Some surprising ones back here. Cr7 Motorsports, the 9 truck, they have just, they've run like junk this year. They crashed at Atlanta. They went out at Coda in 3 laps, and they just had ungodly bad luck, and they are the lowest truck to start all the races this season, all the way down in 37th in points. And in the truck ahead of them is the one. Haley Deegan's one truck, Team DGR, is 36th in the points. Deegan must qualify on time this weekend. No botches, no slip-ups in qualifying for Deegan. This is not group qualifying where you get unlimited attempts to go out there and set a lap. And the same thing at COTA. Same thing was at COTA. The pressure is on her. She cannot screw up because more than likely, if she screws up and she's not in the Fast 31, it might be really short of her getting a provisional. And boy, what would happen if Deegan managed to DNQ a race? I think social media would burn down. Then after her is the 3 truck of Jordan Anderson Racing. That team entered this weekend? They are not. As far as I've been told, that team, I don't want to confirm it, but from what I was told, that team is possibly shut down. Jordan Anderson's truck team is possibly shut down. And I could see why. I even pointed it out multiple times last season that with all due respect to Jordan Anderson, that truck team wasn't even trying last year, it felt like. They were putting in drivers who, a lot of them didn't even know what they were doing. A lot of them didn't have the experience. And I felt like Jordan was only putting them in that truck because they had the money. And you mix that money with the fact that Jordan was barely inside the top 36 to get the full purse money. You mix the sponsorship dollars with the purse money, you make a profit. Kind of. So therefore, it worked. And, the Daytona, I think it was the Daytona DNQ that really set back that 3 team. They made Atlanta. Did they make let's see, they only made like 2 or 3 starts this season. But either way, I'm not shocked that the 3 team might have shut down because they just weren't doing that good at all. They really weren't. And I think it's more beneficial for Jordan to focus on the Xfinity team because as we've seen this season, despite the great sponsorship from Tax Slayer, even Jordan's Xfinity team has also, with all due respect, run like junk. That 31 team, outside of a great finish at COTA, relatively has not been all that competitive this season. You cannot disagree with me. It really hasn't. Yeah, they've had their moments in the top 20, but then for some reason, Snyder just falls back. I don't know if it's just the car, is it the driver? We don't know. Other notable full-timers, the 91 McAnally truck is 33rd. The 46 Glory to God truck is 31st. The 40 Nice truck is 30th. And the 24 truck is 29th. In terms of the top 20 battle, currently the remaining 2 trucks in the top 20, and 19th is the 56 of the Timmy Hill truck. And the 44 Chris Wright for Nice Motorsports. The truck right behind that team in 21st is the 33 for Rayon Brothers Racing. And in 22nd, the 12 of Young's Motorsports. Some notable trucks that should be able to get into that top 20 that are currently out of it right now. The 61 of Atori Racing is 23rd. The 24, like I said, of GMS Racing is 29th. That truck should be able to contend there. And I'll even throw in the 91 because that is a McAnally Racing truck more than competitive enough to run to get inside that top 20 every week. But in terms of how far they are back, there is no shot at catching the top 20 at this point. You are too far back. 20th place has 76 points. And for instance, Deegan's truck, the number 1, only has 28. There's no way you're going to make up that point gap throughout the season unless the 44 team just falls off a cliff. So I just don't see that happening. I don't see those teams 30th on back being able to climb up far enough, unfortunately. As for the entry list this weekend, we have some notable entries. Johnny Sauter is in the 13 for Thor Sport. Again, this is part of that part-time deal. He cannot use his past champions provisional if he botches his qualifying lap, As remember, he used that at Daytona, and I think it's every 6 attempts. Every 6 attempts is when you can use your past champions provisional, if I'm correct. Spire Motorsports truck team is back this weekend with William Byron. The 20 truck, as I've been reporting on my Start and Park account right now, is not scheduled to run full time. And it's shown because there's been a different driver in it pretty much every week. This week, the 20 will be driven by Dylan Stewart. And I cannot say I know who that is. If anybody in the chat knows who Dylan Stewart is, I feel free to give some information and I'll plug him on here because I really have no idea who this kid is. Probably is a local late model driver who might have just brung some sponsorship dollars because, like I said, guys, right now that 20 truck is not scheduled for a full-time season, and I think they're kind of just going race by race with that truck. If they can find someone to drive, they're going to keep going, but I think the moment that they can't find a driver for that week, they'll probably shut the team down. So moving on, and speaking of that 20 truck, it is 26th in the owner's points, so I don't think that Dylan's going to have a tough time making the show. With only 3 DNQs, I think he will be able to live on a provisional, so I don't think there's any real pressure for Dylan to make the show on time because he's got more than enough positions in the provisional market to safely make the show. Other notable entries we have the 33, which will be driven by Chase Janes. Again, I have no idea who this kid is. And again, if someone could give me some information on him, I'll give him a plug. I do know who Jake Garcia is. He drove a couple of ARCA races for David Gilliland, and I know him on the late model circuit. This is a third Bill McAnally truck, the number 35. And again, that truck, though, has no owner points. The 33 and the 20, those guys I just talked about, they're safe. They're in the show. The 35 has no owner points. Needs to make the show on time. So welcome to the Truck Series, Jake Garcia. You got to go make the show on time. An easier task said than done, especially at a track like Martinsville where you can easily botch your qualifying lap. Other notables, 43 is Blake Lothian or Lothane. I think it's Lothane. With all due respect, again, I guess I need to pay more attention to maybe the late model circuit because I have no idea who this guy is. I no idea, no clue. If anyone in the chat could fill me in, I appreciate that because I'd like to give him a plug, but I just have no idea who this guy is. Obviously, he's from a driver development program because he wouldn't be able to get approved for this race. I'm also a little concerned for him as well because the 43, despite Brad Perez's great run at COTA, is still 28th in the points, is 28th in owner's points. And, I would say that's just on the verge of making it, but also not. And, I don't expect him to be fast out of the gate because, getting into a truck versus a late model probably at that track is completely different. All your braking zones, the shifting zones, all different. And so I would say on my DNQ list, I don't know if I'd put him on there just yet, but, putting a rookie like him in with really no experience in a truck at Martinsville, it's going to be close. It's definitely going to be close for that 43 team. Other notable entries, the 46 will not be driven by Matt Jeskill. Caden Honeycutt. You guys might remember Caden from driving an ARCA car, the number 38 a couple years ago, who is also driven on the late model circuit the most of his time as well, or in the K&N series as well. He'll be in the 46. Now, again, that truck is in the same situation as the 43. The 46 truck is only 31st in the points. Would not be shocked if this was a move maybe by that team because Matt Jeskill has not really been shown to maybe get the most out of his qualifying lap. He can do it in the race, but I've always kind of seen that Matt just has a little bit of trouble getting it done in qualifying, and that's understandable. A lot of guys will race a lot better than where they qualified. And Matt's one of those guys. Matt's a good driver. Sometimes he just has some issues qualifying, but that happens to a lot of people. So we'll see if Caden can get in the show. And where our last notable entry is the 90 of Justin Carroll. Now, I did report this a couple months ago that Justin Carroll is looking at a part-time truck season after not being able to compete back in 2021. Ironic that although their number is number 91, they were not able to get the number 91, I guess, for 2022 because apparently that was given to the 91 team for McAnally. So they had to settle, I guess, with the next best number is either 92 or 90. So they're running the 90. And a lot of people that I saw had the 90 on their DNQ list. I don't know, man. You know, he's been around that track in late models. He has experience at the track. And I know that team has good equipment. They put a lot of money into their equipment. They're not as low budget as people think they are. So, man, it's hard to judge. It really is hard to judge the DNQs. If I had to pick three, because I know you guys want my predictions, you guys can put your predictions in the chat or in the comment section if you want as well. But if I honestly had to pick three trucks to go home, and this is just solely based on how I think the qualifying session will go with luck and what drivers might put down a surprising lap, my three trucks to go home is the 9 of Cr7. I don't see their luck helping them. Caden Honeycutt, I think it's going to be really close, but I see the 46 going home. And for my final truck, I do think the 43 is going home. I just think, I don't think Blake's just going to go fast enough. He might beat a couple of trucks. They might try to rely on an owner point provisional, but I think it's just too many trucks below him in points will run quicker. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, and I'm probably going to be wrong, but if you had to give me three trucks that I think are going to miss the show, the 46, the 43, and the 9 are my three DNQ picks. Again, you guys can put yours in the chat or in the comment section below, whatever you guys want to do. So now we move on from the truck series to the Xfinity series. Now, of course, the Xfinity series, the two battles that they have going on this year that we would be following on Backmarker Battles is, of course, the top 20 Xfinity Owners bonus at the end of the year for full-time teams only, and then the top 30 10K bonus, which also does apply to part-time teams. If they are in the top 30 10K bonus and they are entered for that week, they will get it. So they are, of course, at Martinsville again this weekend. And they have a big entry list as well. 43 cars, very stacked field, 5 DNQs, a lot of cars going home. In case you guys are wondering who's leading the Owners' Championship right now, it's Colleague Racing number 16 car. The last two in right now on the top 20 Owners bonus is the 02 of Our Motorsports in 19th, and the number 20th place, the 07 of the SS Greenlight team in 21st is the 36 for DGM, and in 22nd is the 44 for Alpha Prime, in case you guys are curious. The lowest full-time car in owner points right now is the 47 of Nascarman Racing, but granted, they've only made 2 races this season, so it's kind of hard to judge it. If you want to judge a car that's made every race this season, that car would be then the 99. The 99 is the lowest car in owner points. Actually, it's the 6. Sorry, my correction. It's the 6. The 6 is the lowest car in owner points to have made every race because both the 99, the 78, and the 34 have suffered DNQs. Man, I tell you, it's going to be hard, again, to cover DNQs here. Not really many different entries in the field. Natalie Decker will be in the 28 for RSS. I would assume that maybe this was supposed to be another combination effort with Rayon Brothers Racing, considering that Natalie has a part-time schedule for them this season. But as we know, back at Atlanta, Larissa Hezemans went through the grass during a caution, and we know what happens to NASCARs when they go through the grass. Pow! There goes the splitter. Ripped the entire front end off, and as we know, that takes a long, long time to repair. Absolutely demolishes a car. It's just, why can't we get rid of splitters or replace it with turf? So she's driving an actual RSS car this weekend. Derek Griffith will be in the 26. Chad Fincham, the 13 team, is back with Chad's car. That is the former Gibbs car. In the 13, Shane Lee will be in the 35 for the Emerling Gaze team. Kyle Weatherman will continue to drive the 34 for the Jesse Iwuji team. Howie DiSavino is now in the 44 this week, which guarantees him a spot in the show. Ryan Ellis is in the 45 this week. Ronnie Bassett Jr. is in the 77 with that team, hoping to finally make a start this season. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is racing this weekend. And right now, there is rain scheduled. Now, I was told from some sides that Junior would be safe in the show, and Junior wouldn't be safe in the show. So I don't know how to call it right now. But I don't want to talk about rain. I just want to talk about actual possible situations. I tell you guys, once again, it's hard to pick. Now, you could say, oh, the 47 team, oh, the 52 team. Mike Harmon and Jimmy Means, man, they've been at this a long time. They've got good drivers behind the wheel. Brennan Poole is a solid hand. Mike Harmon really got lucky that Brennan Poole was on the free agent market. Brennan Poole is a great driver. It's kind of sad how his career really fell apart because of DC Solar. DC Solar, after that season, kind of went away, and it pretty much led to the end of his career. And then he had that mediocre season at Rick Ware Racing, and then he just kind of ran part-time wherever he could. Harrison Rhodes at the same time for the 52 team. You know, Harrison's an underrated driver. I just think it's kind of weird to see Harrison really return out of thin air because he hadn't made a NASCAR start in almost 2 years. So that was kind of weird to see him return out of thin air. And I think he's a good driver as well for the 52. It's hard for me to pick DNQs this weekend, man. If I did have to pick, though, I would. Oh, God, man, I tell you. You guys can, again, put them in the chat below. 38 cars, so 5 DNQs. If you wanted me to give 5 honest DNQ predictions for the Xfinity race, my 5 would actually be the honestly, I don't think the 34 is going to make it. I don't want to say honestly. I just think maybe something might go wrong. I'm going to put the 34 on my DNQ list. Now, I'm probably going to be wrong because we all love Kyle Weatherman, and I do want them to make the show. But the 34, the 28, because the 28 is only 30th in points, and we all know Natalie Decker is not going to get that car in on time. And if she does, wow, that would be impressive. Honestly, the 45. You know, we've seen Ryan Ellis in his couple of qualifying attempts this season for the 44 car. He's qualified not very good. He's ran great, but he hasn't qualified that good. And I don't know. I don't know if Ryan will be able to get that car in the show on time. I don't know. There's so many competitive cars. So let's see. We got the 45. We got the 34. Sadly, I am including the 52 team. I just think, just like Phoenix, I mean, not Phoenix, but Richmond, they're going to come close, but they're not going to make it. My other DNQs would be, I would actually say I love him, and he follows me on social media. But again, I'm going to have to go with Ryan Vargas not because he's not talented enough. But again, there's so many competitive cars, man. It's so hard to tell. You know, I love Ryan, and he'll probably be able to get in the show. Brian's done a good job of being able to get his car in the show. But I just think it might come up a spot short. I love Ryan, though, but that's not to Ryan's talent. I just think everybody is so competitive. You know, he might miss the show by just 1,000th of a second. And then my fifth and final DNQ is actually Matt Mills in the 5. I think his teammates are going to outrun him. And after what we saw at Richmond, I just don't think Matt's going to be able to keep up the speed. And those are my 5 DNQs, the 34, the 6, the 45, the 52, and the 5. So, yeah. Some in the chat. I wouldn't sleep on the 13, like I said. That is a former Gibbs entry. Chad Fincham has a lot of good equipment in that car. And in general, Chad's a good short track driver. The 77 of Ronnie Bassett, those guys are made for the short tracks. I think this is arguably their best shot to make it. Stefan Parsons. Stefan's a good qualifier. I think he can get that car in the show. Same with Josh Williams. But those are good predictions, and probably some of those cars in your predictions will probably DNQ as well from Age Gale 1718. So thanks for giving your picks as well. And like I said, guys, it's going to be really close. It's going to be really, really close. I think it's going to be the most entertaining qualifying session. I really hope rain does not wash it out, because I'm going to feel really bad for Chad, because that's 2 races in a row where Chad has a car that he could get in the show with. Same with the 77. And they don't even get a chance to try. And I think that falls on NASCAR. If qualifying's on Thursday and the race is on Friday, there's no reason why you can't run qualifying then on Friday. There's no reason. It doesn't make any sense. That's just my opinion. But now coming up to the Cup Series, and this one won't take all that long because there's not much, there's no DNQs going home. We only got the 36 cars for Martinsville, which it's a little sad, but at the same time, it's kind of expected. An open team doesn't really want to destroy one of their Cup cars at a track like Martinsville, which probably alone doesn't pay out that good either. In case you guys are curious, the 12 team of Team Penske currently leads the Owners' Championship. The main Cup battle that we have been discussing is the top 33 charter battle, which last year we discussed it with the 51 team, and then the top 25 Cup $1 million bonus that the teams get at the end of the year. Right now, the last 2 in that $1 million bonus in 24th is the 42 of the Petty GMS team. And in 25th is the 34 of Front Row Motorsports. And 26th behind is the 41 of Stewart Haas Racing and the 38 of Front Row Motorsports as well. Notable cars that are outside the top 25 bonus right now is the 16 Colleague entry in 29th and the Wood Brothers racing car, which is 30th, and the 6 RFK racing car, which is all the way down in 34th, and may not even get a chance unless he wins to even get back up there. Now, I said top 33 charter battle. You guys wait. I don't think there was one this year. Well, there is. The number 7 of Spire Motorsports acquired a charter from Rick Ware Racing that obviously finished below the top 33. So kind of a fun thing to watch this season. The 7 car of Corey LaJoie, if they finish, now this is not based per team, this is based by charter. Now it's unlikely to happen, but if the 7 team does not finish inside the top 33, NASCAR can repossess their charter. Right now, the 7 team is currently 31st in the points, 22 points above 34th. Last right now in owner points is the 78 of Live Fast Motorsports, but we kind of expected that. BJ tries his best, but, on most weeks that car just doesn't have a lot of speed. So that's kind of there for the situation for Spire, but it is something to keep an eye on for the Spire Motorsports team. That 17 can't slip up. That 5th place finish they had at Atlanta really helped them get a lot of points. But you can't slip up. We have a lot more competitive cars this season, a lot more competitive cars, but I still would not take it easy at all. And in terms of the top $25 million bonus, You're going to have a lot of teams try to get that at the end of the year because, you could see that might go to a lot of Christmas bonuses. That might go to a lot of special bonuses for the team members and the actual driver. So anyway, that's why I love doing this show, guys. Lots of battles all over the place, from ARCA to Truck to Xfinity to Cup. It's the battles that I feel like don't get talked about enough, if at all. And it's sad. For a lot of people who don't know, why do a team like, Mike Harmon show up to run 35th? It's for a reason. Why do teams like Alpha Prime show up to run 15th or 10th at best? That's the reason why. At the end of the day, those top 20 bonuses, that's their championship that they try to compete the best for. Obviously, Alpha Prime, they want to be a winning team. They're just not there yet. That's the key word, yet. For that top 20 owners bonus and the top 12 to get to the playoffs, that's their championship. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Backmarker Battles and NASCAR ARCA News. It doesn't look like we'll have an ARCA Racing preview show next week. We might have a driver on. I've been talking to some people, so hopefully we'll have the ARCA Racing podcast return next week. But for the meantime, like I said, I'm glad you guys joined me for Backmarker Battles. Just for a little one-time thing, we're going to revamp this show a little bit later in the season so I can give you guys, of course, better coverage. Follow me on social media, as of course, it's all in the link in the description. Check out my other videos. Recently started a new series called Start and Park Qualifying Runs, where you guys can watch the start and park cars of a race do their qualifying laps. It's kind of an easy video, but it's also kind of entertaining as well if you got some time to kill. And of course, follow all my friends, like and subscribe. I love you guys. You guys make this a lot of fun. And we'll catch you all next week. So long, guys. Love y'all.